Welcome back to the channel, and you'll have to forgive the entire week that I have taken off from uploading. Remarkable just how fast time goes when you're in lockdown. I actually can't believe it. The last week has evaporated, despite the fact that I'm 99% of the time in the house. I've actually been remarkably busy making plans and projects and progress for when our doors do open. We're allowed back outside into the open world. But until then, I was flicking through historic content, because at the minute, for anybody who has decided to tune into the channel now and has missed the previous COVID and Cars episodes, I have effectively been sharing the untold stories and the behind the scenes of various videos which have meant a lot to me over the years, and ones which have seemingly got a lot of interest and attention. As part of that, I was flicking through some thinking, what video shall I film and share with you next? And I came across videos of my old 458 Speciale. Now, this got me thinking, first of all, how much I missed that car, hence the title of this video. But also, one of the questions that I get asked a lot, be it in person or on comments and social media, is what car do you miss or regret selling the most? And there's actually two cars which I default to immediately. The first one was actually a car that none of you probably ever saw. It was a BMW 1M. I absolutely love that car. It's a fantastic thing. They only introduced 450 to the UK, and it was somewhat of a Frankenstein car. What I mean by that was they'd used parts from the M division part bin, and it was a sort of M3 1 Series hybrid, and it has had all sorts of running gear and suspension components from an M3 and chassis of a BMW 1 Series. And at the time, purists were sort of up in the air about it because it wasn't really a thoroughbred M developed engine. It was turbocharged for starters. That was just as everything was going turbocharged, and it wasn't naturally aspirated as familiar M cars of old. But to drive, it was phenomenal. Super snappy short wheelbase, but loads of power, loads of torque, and just a wonderfully characterful car. It was very simple. It wasn't emblazoned in buttons like you get on new M cars these days. It was still relatively pure. And that car I really regret selling. As it happens, it was because I ended up buying this house and it needed furniture. So I ended up having to sell that car. Remarkably, in the time that I bought it and the time that I sold it, I did 25,000 miles and got back exactly what I paid for it, which is the sign of a special car for sure. And then the other one, which is more recent, is my Rosso Fiorano 458 Speciale. Now, when I look and discuss at what cars I think are going to be modern classics, put myself in the future looking backwards towards where we are now or where we have been. Bear with me, I know this is a very convoluted way of explaining things, but I think to myself, okay, in the future when we look back on this car, whatever that car might be, why will it be special? Now, in the case of the Ferrari 458 Speciale, little did we know at the time that that was going to be the last naturally aspirated V8 to come out of Ferrari. Now, that's a massive deal for the car world, but it's a massive deal particularly for this car because of the incredible lineage and history that Ferrari have had with naturally aspirated flat plane crank V8s. Just the success stories there. I mean, think about the cars which have come previously to that. 430 Scuderia, 355, 360 Challenge Stradale, all wonderfully sounding, sonorous, atmospheric engines. And here we are. When it launched, we didn't know that it would be the last time that Ferrari would produce. And think of the name there. Ferrari would produce a naturally aspirated V8. So in the world of cars, never mind Ferrari, cars alone, the fact that such an established marque discontinued such a remarkable engine, we will look back on in history and go, wow, that was a bit of a major moment. If we'd have all known that that would have been the last, we'd probably sung its song a little bit further. And then on top of that, it just so happened to also be an incredibly good car. Now, what was so fantastic about it was the fact that it revved to 9,000 and it was a relatively light car. And the way that this car used to dance down a British B road or a back road. One thing I wasn't particularly enamored with aesthetically was the gap between the tyres, or the wheels and tyres, and the arch. It had a really big gap between the arches, but every now and again I used to send that car down some deep depressions and I used to feel the whole suspension load up and the whole car squat down, and I used to imagine it just filling those arches. And then as a result of experiencing that, I would cut its aesthetics, particularly from the rear arches being sort of so far away from the tyre, I would cut those aesthetics some slack, because the way this thing used to dance across a bumpy B road was remarkable. And still to this day, the relationship between the engine and the gearbox is one of the best I have ever experienced.
And it's a very fast circuit. You know, obviously it's an international circuit suitable for Formula One. So the circuit's designed for downforce cars. On the brakes. The pros of that is the circuit's very safe because it's got a lot of runoff. So if you do go wrong, you're probably not going to go too wrong. 9,000. The cons of it are, it absolutely kills the car. Because this just isn't, while it's a track car, these international circuits allow you to get so much speed. I'm caught in a traffic jam here. They allow you to get so much speed out of the car just because that huge amount of tarmac.
Now on the upshifts, I'd go so far as to say that Porsche's PDK gearbox is definitely more razor sharp. However, on the downshifts, there was something about that engine, the marriage between the gearbox and the engine, which just allowed you to slam down those gears just a little bit harder and a little bit later than you might have done in the GT3 RS at that time. Now, I haven't had the privilege of doing a back-to-back with the latest GT3 RS Gen 2 Weissach with a Speciale. I'd be fascinated to see if they've managed to achieve downshifts quite as explosive as the 458 Speciale. But regardless, at that time when that car launched, it was such an incredible step on. And I just remember journalists and people I spoke to who were fans of that car just used to rave about it, and I couldn't get enough of driving it. And so when I got this car, and this is the real reason why I actually miss this car the most, and it's the one that I regret selling the most, is because of the following. You see, there's countless Speciales which are always on the market for sale. In fact, that was my second Speciale. My first one, it was great. I had some good times with it, but I never had enough adventures with it to really become attached to it. Whereas this Speciale, the adventures that I had, the videos that I made, and the caliber of memories created with that car were truly, truly special. And here's two standout moments. First of all, I flew that car to Dubai, and I spent the best part of 3 weeks out there with it. Now, when you send something so familiar, so far from home, to a location as exotic and full of like-minded petrolheads as Dubai, it really leaves a lasting mark on both the car and your brain. Every time I look back at photos like that, I'm like, did I actually do that? Like, even now, it seems like a really big deal that I put my car on a plane, flew it halfway across the world to a desert, and I took it around Yas Marina. Imagine taking your own car around Yas Marina race circuit. I mean, it's a big deal even if you sort of live in the area, because it's such an esteemed Formula One circuit. But when you've got that English number plate on the back of your car and you've got footage of it driving around Yas Marina Formula One circuit at night, it's just incredible. And I've got photos of me driving past the Burj Al Arab, and just the memories of one evening we drove this car through Dubai Mall, like through the shopping mall. It was a ridiculous occasion. And that, for me, is what's really important about why a car is special to you. It doesn't matter what car you've got, I mean, with a few exceptions, but it generally doesn't matter what car you've got, there's always another version of it for sale. It might not be exactly the same spec, and it won't obviously be the identical car. But what makes them special to us as people and as petrolheads is the memories that we have associated with them. And for me, to have put that car on a plane, Yas Marina, Dubai Autodrome as well, phenomenal circuit. I even managed to take my own car up Jebel Jais. I mean, I've always wanted to drive the car of my dreams on that road, but when you take your own car there, I mean, it was a truly bucket list moment. Never when I filmed that road for the first time did I ever think that I would ever, in a million years, have the opportunity to take my own car up that road. And then there I was, with my Speciale, parked at the very top of this incredible driving road, one of my favorite driving roads. Any of you guys who followed the NVN journey, that all happened because of that car. I flew it from London to Dubai, and I ended up using NVN Dubai as my sort of daily hub. I would start there in the mornings, finish there in the evenings, wash the car off, and every time I was there, I would meet like-minded people. And this is where things got really interesting, because that's the concept that we ended up taking from Dubai and plugging into London. And that's why NVN London exists, all because of that car and the experience of having my car PPF'd at NVN Dubai. I'd never seen a setup like it. It was on a generic sort of industrial estate where most PPF setups normally are. And so when I first went there, I thought, listen, I've been to plenty of these places all around the world. Once you've seen one, you've seen them all. How wrong was I? When I stepped through the door of NVN Dubai, it's like this massive contrast coming effectively from the desert inside this, what I likened to at the time, as if Apple had gone into PPF. It was surgical. It was such a precise environment. It was air conditioned and so cool. Pristine white floors, white walls, and all these guys in matching outfits just working on my car. And I landed and my car was already there, being taken care of. So I walked in and there it was, pristine and clean, waiting for me to drive it out and explore Dubai. And off the back of that, every time I went back to NVN Dubai with my car, I used to meet like-minded people. What was fantastic about Dubai is that the evening culture is arguably better than the daytime culture. Because in the daytime, it's generally pretty hot, right? I mean, sometimes too hot. But in the evening, the guys over there, they have track days at night and they run until like 2 in the morning. It's a phenomenal experience. And it's such a magical occasion being able to drive the likes of Yas Marina at nighttime. It's floodlit, and you've got all your new mates with you with other incredible cars. And I think that was the main thing for me. Now, not only that, I managed to document the journey of it all. Flying it out, flying it back. My car even ended up on ITV. So anyone who isn't from the UK, it's one of our major TV stations over here, and they made a little documentary on me flying my car to and from Dubai. So that was incredible as well. And then to round it all off, and I think this is the thing which probably makes me gravitate towards that car the most. And I don't know what went wrong with my brain on the day that I decided to sell that car. But my best man, Eddie, drove that car on my wedding day, which is a pretty big deal. So I've got all of these amazing memories, and then along came an F12 TDF, and I decided to chop it in. Now, the chances are if NVN London hadn't have come along at the same time, I'd have probably been able to hold on to the 458 Speciale, but it's just the way of the world. There's not an endless pot of cash, unfortunately. And so, yeah, with the investment in NVN Dubai and also the F12 TDF coming along at the same time, something had to give, and sadly that was the 458 Speciale. And yeah, to this day, it's still the car which I have the most fond memories with because of the adventures I've done. And I think that's the thing which I would like to encourage for you. It doesn't matter what car you've got, go out there and use it. And I'm saying that because just look at the market right now. It is on its arse. You know, it's just falling apart. And I think anyone that might have, succumbed to the investment purchase and have put it away for a sunny Sunday afternoon, I think it's really important that we use these things to activate life. And while you can collect these things, and who am I to say not to, I just can't help but think one day you'll look back and think, isn't it a shame I didn't go out and enjoy life with that car? It's the memories you take with you, not the car. And I think that's the number one thing for me. When I look back, and even though I'm sorry to not have that car anymore, I'm super thankful that I have these stories which I've just been able to share with you. And if it wasn't for me using it, that would have never happened. So these are valuable things, valuable stories. And also, isn't it great to get to know and learn and understand every last inch of your own car? And you can't do that without really driving it. And you have to experience it on track and on roads and in the wet and on road trips and all sorts of things in order to truly understand what the character is of a car. And I think you can then take that knowledge forwards when you come to experience other cars, when you can sort of trade the pros and cons off based on your own driving experience. So there we are, really. I just wanted to sort of share those stories and thoughts. Importantly for me right now, no doubt quite a few of you will have similar situations and stories where you had a car, you didn't necessarily want to let go of it, but you kind of had to for whatever circumstances. So let me know in the comments below what was your favorite car and why you regret selling it. And even if you still have it, why is it your favorite car? Let me know. As always, I hope you guys are staying happy, healthy, and safe during this crazy time of lockdown. There are signs of things easing in different countries throughout Europe. Hopefully we will slacken off soon and I'll be able to get out there in the wild world and bring you some fresh content of, imagine this, me actually behind the wheel of a rolling car. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you next time. Ciao!